They said my daughter couldn't come back to school until I apologized. I still remember the smell of that room lemon cleaner and fear. The principal's office at Northcrest Elementary felt colder than usual that morning. Across the polished desk sat Mr. and Mrs. Sutton, their pearl smiles stiff, their designer coats barely moving as they waited for me to fold. Between us lay a single sheet of paper, confession of parental negligence typed neatly in bold letters. The principal slid a pen toward me. "Once you sign, Lily can return to class." My hand trembled, but not from guilt. My daughter had stood up to their child, stopped her from tearing up another kid's drawing, and for that, she was the one suspended. Mrs. Sutton crossed her legs, voice dripping with pity. "You people always make excuses. Maybe she just needs better guidance. Or a real father figure." The words stung sharper than I expected. I wanted to scream to tell her I'd done this alone for 10 years, every scraped knee, every midnight fever, every rent payment. But instead I stared at the pen. Then quietly I pushed it back across the table. "If you need a signature, I said you'll have it tomorrow morning." The room went silent. Because what they didn't know, what even I hadn't realized until that moment, was that I still had one card left to play. I picked up my phone, scrolled to a number I hadn't dialed in 20 years, and whispered into the receiver, "Victor Hale. It's me. I need your help." That night, I couldn't sleep. The phrase, "real father figure," echoed in my head long after I tucked Lily into bed. She had asked why she couldn't go to school tomorrow. I told her it was just a misunderstanding, that sometimes adults make mistakes too. But she's 10, not naive. I saw it in her eyes, the quiet shame of being punished for doing the right thing. The rain started sometime after midnight, soft against the window. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the old photograph tucked in a drawer, my mother smiling beside the man who once tried to be my father. Victor Hale. I hadn't spoken to him since I was 16. Back then, pride felt like armor. When my mom died, I skipped the funeral reception he arranged. He sent letters I never opened, birthday cards I threw away. I didn't want charity. I wanted to prove I didn't need anyone. And yet, here I was, 36 years old, a single mother begging the past for help. The next morning I dropped Lily off at my friend Emma's cafe. Steam from the espresso machine curled around us like fog. "You sure you don't want me to come?" she asked. "I'll handle it," I said, forcing a smile. I always do. But walking through those hallways, I felt smaller with every step. The posters on the walls, "Kindness counts 0, tolerance for bullying," looked like jokes. The same kids who mocked my daughter were laughing by the lockers, free, untouched. The secretary gave me a rehearsed smile. "They're waiting for you, Miss Pierce." They. Always they. Never we. Inside, the air smelled like expensive perfume and stale power. The Suttons were already seated, Bianca crossing her legs like she was in court, Cole pretending to check his watch. The principal handed me another document, a suspension confirmation. "It's standard procedure," he said. "But if you sign the apology today, we can expedite her return." My fingers brushed the pen. I thought of Lily's drawings, her dream of making the world fairer. Fairness. Such a fragile word. "You're right," I said softly. Maybe she does need better guidance. Their smiles widened. They thought I'd surrendered. "But before I sign anything," I continued, "I'll have someone look over this document first. He's familiar with school boards." The principal frowned. "Who exactly?" "My father," I interrupted. "Well, technically my stepfather. Victor Hale." The color drained from his face. Even the Suttons exchanged glances. They knew that name. Everyone in this district did. "I'll get back to you tomorrow morning," I said. "Please direct all communication to him." When I left, the hallway fell silent. Kids moved aside like I carried something dangerous, not anger, but certainty. Outside, the rain had stopped. I stood by the parking lot, dialing that old number again just to hear it ring. Rowan. His voice was calm, steady. "It's been a long time." "Yeah," I whispered. "Too long." For the first time in years, I didn't sound defensive. I sounded ready to stop surviving and start fighting. The next morning, I dressed like armor-crisp navy blouse, black trousers, hair tied back. No makeup, just clarity. By the time I reached the school, the parking lot buzzed with whispers. "The Suttons were already waiting, Doctor." Whitaker cleared his throat. "Ms. Pierce, thank you for coming. We've prepared a written statement to resolve this." He slid another paper across the table. Same condescending letterhead. Parent assumes responsibility for behavioral misconduct. It wasn't just an apology. It was a confession. Bianca leaned forward. "Once you sign, everything goes away. No press, no record." I stared at the page, my dignity dangling from a pen's tip. "Did you talk to witnesses?" I asked. "We reviewed the accounts," he said. "You mean you asked their daughter?" I replied. Bianca smiled thinly. "You're emotional. It must be difficult raising a child alone." There it was again, pity sharpened into insult. "You know what's difficult, Mrs. Sutton. Watching your kid learn that telling the truth can cost her everything." Her mask cracked only for a second. I reached for the pen, then stopped. Victor's voice echoed in my mind. "Don't sign anything. I'll be there at 9. "I'll have someone review this," I said. "My father. Victor Hale." Bianca's face blanched. Cole's jaw tightened. "That's the one," I said, standing. "Print an extra copy. He likes notes." Their silence followed me out. At exactly 9, a black sedan rolled into the parking lot. Even from the window, I recognized that posture, quiet command. Victor Hale stepped out. Silver hair gleaming, charcoal coat immaculate. He entered the building like he owned it. "Good morning," he said to the stunned secretary. "I'm here regarding my granddaughter, Lily Pierce." Granddaughter. The word hit like thunder. When he entered the office, everyone stood. He shook my hand gently before turning to them. "Mr. and Mrs. Sutton. Dr. Whitaker." "I wasn't involved," Victor said, until last night. He sat beside me, adjusting his cufflinks. "Before we discuss apologies, I'd like to review the documentation." Cole Sutton scoffed. "This isn't a courtroom." Victor smiled mildly. "Then you'll appreciate accountability." He tapped his phone. "My assistant just sent over the witness statements." You'll notice that Lily intervened to protect another student's artwork. Silence filled the room. Dr. Whitaker blinked. "You obtained those?" Victor nodded. "Through the superintendent. I serve on the advisory board." Bianca fidgeted. "This feels unnecessary. Unnecessary!" Victor repeated to defend a child from institutional cowardice. His voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Tell me, doctor, is this how Northcrest defines fairness?" The principal's mouth opened-closed. "Here's what will happen," Victor said, sliding the paper back. "Lily's suspension will be lifted. The school and the Suttons will issue formal apologies, and her record will remain spotless." Cole stood up. "You can't just—" Victor's gaze froze him mid-sentence. "Consult your attorney if you wish. I assure you the press loves stories like these." Bianca tugged her husband's sleeve. "Cole, don't." Victor rose. "You have until noon. Otherwise this goes public." Then he looked at me. "Come, Rowan. We're done here." Outside, the cold air smelled like metal and victory. "You didn't have to do that," I whispered. "I did," he said quietly, "because I should have done it a long time ago." By noon, the apology letters arrived. Dr. Whitaker's was formal, apologizing for procedural oversights. The Suttons was colder, drafted by lawyers, yet the words were there. "We regret the emotional distress caused to Lily Pierce and her family." Victor skimmed them and nodded. "It's a start. I should have felt triumph." Instead, I felt hollow, as if winning only revealed how exhausted I'd been. That evening, Lily ran into my arms. Mom, I can go back. Grandpa fixed it. Grandpa? The word landed like sunlight through glass. Victor smiled. No, sweetheart. Your mother fixed it. I just signed the right papers. That night we sat on the porch, the air heavy with rain and cedar. You always fought alone, he said. I thought asking for help made me weak. He shook his head. It makes you human. I stared into the darkness. You could have just forced them to apologize and left. He looked at the sky. Power means nothing if it fixes only one wound. And that's how the Beacon Arts and Safety Fund began a partnership between Victor's company and the district to support bullied students. I drafted the first proposal. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was restoration. When the local paper ran the story, the headline read, "Mother and Grandfather Turned Scandal into School Reform." People online called it poetic justice. For me, it was quieter closure. Pride had kept me alive. It had also kept me lonely. Victor didn't gloat. He just started showing up every Sunday with bagels and lemon tree fertilizer. Roots grow deepest in silence, he said. Months later, Lily came home waving a drawing 3 figures under a lemon tree holding hands. Grandpa says you were braver than him, she said. I smiled. He's exaggerating. That night I saw Victor watching us from the window, eyes soft with guilt and gratitude. Maybe we were both learning to forgive ourselves. Then Bianca Sutton couldn't resist one last performance, a post online painting herself as the victim of financial intimidation. I almost responded. Every nerve itched to defend us. But Victor stopped me. Let them talk, he said. Truth doesn't need your defense anymore. He was right. Within days, other parents shared their stories, how the Suttons' influence had shielded their daughter for years. The tide turned on its own. That's when I learned the truest form of revenge: silence, louder than rage. Northcrest changed. Teachers called Lily our peacekeeper. The district adopted a new anti-bullying initiative, the Pierce Policy. I was invited to speak at the first Beacon Arts showcase. Rows of kids held sketchbooks and cameras. This started because one girl refused to stay silent, I said, and because one man reminded me that strength doesn't mean standing alone. After the applause, Victor waited near the exit, hands in his coat pockets. Lily tugged my sleeve. Ice cream Grandpa promised sprinkles. He chuckled. A promise is a contract, little one. We walked out together, the setting sun reflecting off the school windows, the same building that once humiliated me now carrying our names on its programs. That night, after Lily slept, I sat at my desk and wrote a letter. Dear Rowan, you were wrong about power. It isn't control, it's choice. You were wrong about pride. It isn't armor, it's fear. And you were wrong about family. It's not who shares your blood. It's who shows up when the world turns away. When I looked up, Victor stood in the doorway. Writing again. Trying to, I said, for her. He smiled faintly. Then write something true. I already did. Outside, the wind whispered through the lemon tree. I thought of everything we'd lost and everything we'd built to replace it. Revenge had brought me to him. Forgiveness kept him here. They said my child couldn't return to school until I apologized. I never did. Instead, the people who hurt us signed their own apologies and watched us rebuild something they could never touch. Because the best revenge doesn't destroy, it redefines. It turns humiliation into legacy anger, into policy fear, into change. When people ask how I managed to forgive, I tell them I didn't. I simply stopped needing their understanding. Now when I walk Lily to school, the teachers wave. Kids call her brave. And sometimes on quiet mornings, Victor waits at the corner with 2 coffees, one for me, one for him. We don't talk about that meeting anymore. We don't need to. It's written everywhere in murals painted by children, in the laughter echoing through the halls, in the life we refuse to apologize for. Because in the end, revenge didn't make me ruthless. It made me whole. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to fight to be seen.